Welcome to the show, and it's really nice to have you here, and thanks for taking the time out. So I'm going to start by formally introducing you. Zalina Jamaluddin, Vice President, Low Carbon Ventures at Hibiscus Petroleum Berhad in Malaysia. And Zalina leads a team to drive low carbon venture efforts from decarbonizing the current operating oil and gas assets to then finding new green business opportunities. So welcome on the show.
Thank you, Ritu. It's a pleasure with all the important things you do in the work with leadership and coaching and the women leaders. I really thrilled to be part of this.
Oh, that's lovely. That makes two of us. Okay, great. So Zalina, I want to start by something fun. You know, you are doing this role, which is so big, so important. Did you always want to be here?
Okay. Do I even know whether I'm going to be here? No, definitely not. No one can plan their 20-year career. So no. And the funny thing is, when I first started, I was an ExxonMobil scholar.
Wow.
And I thought at that time, at the young age of 19, when I received the scholarship and I had to work in Exxon for 5 years, I thought I would retire in Exxon. At that point, right? I knew that I wanted a leadership role, but I thought, this is it. I'm going to start. I'm going to retire in Exxon. So never. And you never also see the evolution the oil and gas and the energy industry has come.
Yeah.
Right? It was low carbon energy transition was never in the picture unless until the last 5 years, I would say.
That's right.
It caught up.
What happened after ExxonMobil, that scholarship and the first 4 or 5 years?
I actually served and actually went through the whole career in Exxon for a good 11 years and in multiple roles and in the technical roles and also in leadership role. And after that, so this is where the twist starts. I want to be in a think tank in a government's role. And that time in 2011, there was an economic transformation program from the Prime Minister's office, and I applied and I got in.
Yeah. Okay. And just for context, we are talking here Malaysia, right? So this is you working in the government office in Malaysia.
Yes.
Then what? What did you do there? Because this is so interesting.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be a transformation program for the whole nation in different sectors. Different economic, they call it national key economic areas, and oil and gas was one of them. And I joined the oil and gas sector naturally. And what we did is we strategized and we picked the key projects that can propel the country and really grasp the strength and the opportunities that present ourselves and to make a oil and gas services hub. That was the intent. So I worked with the industry players. I worked with the government, agencies and stakeholders, and also academic institutions to then formulate what are the strategies. And we work with the government to government, relationship, with the Norwegian, the UK, and in fact the American to see how best can we position Malaysia as the oil and gas services hub. So it's very different from a technical role to strategic and I would say international relations role and policies. But at the same time, it was quite grounded because we were looking at projects. So at that point, it was useful, and where my value comes in is, I understand the technical part of it compared to the normal public civil servants, right? So that helps. And just working with the team and the different team, that was, I would say, the most fun part of my career.
Wow. Was it difficult to work in the government sector? That's one. And secondly, was it difficult? Because I would, in my head, think oil and gas is a very male-dominated sector. So was that even an issue for you?
That's an interesting question because I didn't realize that was an issue. Because I think being in Exxon, there were a lot of ladies around, and even I was in Malaysia, it was very, I would say, Americanized culture, and it was quite, level playing field. I felt And then when I got out and I saw the difference, and I didn't see it until somebody actually asked me. So I was the only lady, actually. I was the VP of the oilfield services when at that time. He
Yeah.
actually asked me, I went with my boss, right, the executive director, and then he asked me, oh, are you the PA of the executive director or special officer? And I said, no, I am not. I'm the VP of this department. And, I have done, and I think having the technical competency previously and good solid foundation, I actually said, okay, I've done reservoir, I've done planning, I've done gas, and all this, all the technical jargons. And he was taken aback. But I did it in a, I guess I at that point I didn't really see it, so I didn't really take offense. I just explained to him. So he took it, and I managed to gain respect after that since then from people. So I realized, and that was the turning point for me. I was a little bit aware and conscious of people's perception. Sometimes ignorance is a bliss. I think that was my case. And I actually then had I would say a toolkit of standard answers, FAQs, when people ask me, and I have just made it summarized. So that helps a lot. And I think working with the government agents, actually, it changed my perception also. I had always thought that it will be difficult for me to transition, but it's not, because what I find is that different government agencies, especially those that worked front-facing with the international community, they are very savvy, actually. Our Ministry of Trade is very savvy, and I was glad that that's who we interface with.
Right.
And I've learned a lot from them as well.
Very good. No, I mean, it's so encouraging to hear. And I love this thing about, that something that you said, that even though you didn't realize it, but the fact that you were technically so strong, technically you knew your stuff, that kind of gave you that confidence that it didn't even occur to you that probably you were the only woman, or if somebody asked you a question, it didn't faze you, right? Like you were like, yeah, this is what I do. Where did you go from there then?
At that time, I went back to another Canadian company, actually, Talisman Energy. And what was interesting is, in Exxon, I've always been a technical person. And actually, they were grooming me for, operations leadership and going eventually for other bigger roles. And at that point, I was so interested in commercial in Exxon. And they said, no, you have to at least complete a good 10-year technical ladder and technical and operations ladder before you go for a broader generalist assignment, which is a commercial role. And in Exxon, I didn't have the chance and opportunity to do so. And after I joined Talisman, I actually asked for a commercial role. I was very specific in and I said, I want this commercial advisor. When I joined them, as always, salary negotiation, and I put my, whatever I think my salary is gonna be. And my husband said, why don't you put, additional 10%? And I think this is one of my other lesson learned in life. You just ask. If you don't get it, you don't get it. That's fine. But if you get it, it's a bonus. So I put additional, salary increase, and they actually agreed to it.
Yeah. It's kind of very interesting because it's about the value we put on our work and we put on ourselves, right? And, in your case, that's what you thought. But the fact that they gave you that means they valued you that and much more. So that's, again, a point about, as women leaders, sometimes maybe we hedge too much. Maybe we don't ask, or we don't feel our value as much as probably others perceive it to be, right? And it also starts with how you see your value, and therefore then others will see it like that. And I want to hear your views, how important it is to have, whether it's your husband, your partner, your family, as somebody who's an ally, who's really constantly pushing you.
I think that is one of the greatest enabler for me, because you can't, unless you're not married, you just can't go without support from your partner. And in this case, because both of us are engineers and both of us are in the energy industry. We understand what it takes to do the work. We run our family like a business as well. We're both in Exxon, and we have the whole set and systems. And I can tell you, like, my husband is the greatest support and greatest ally. And I said, why do you do this? He said, because we have daughter, and I want our daughter to be successful as you are, and we have our sons. And if our sons get married, we want their spouse to be successful and they have equal seat in the table. At every part of our life, at every part of our stage, career phase, we actually make a conscious decision. We have, in fact, every year we have a family, I would say, management offsite to set the tone for everyone's, the word for the year. What do you want to achieve for the year? What's important for us? What are the family values? Sometimes, when I was in Exxon, I took a break. I slowed down a little because I wanted to spend time with my kids. I took 6 months off. No one knew that, and it was fine, and it was all about working with your boss. And then as I went into the government, the role was very different. There's a lot of traveling, but it was not as intense as in the oil and gas sector. So I let his career accelerate, right?
Yeah.
And then when I went back, and we were trying to fit in, and every part, it needs to be discussed.
Yeah. That's such an important thing you said, right? Like the need to have this support function, the need to have this ecosystem around. Lena, I want to ask you, have you, as you look back, what are one or two big risks that you took in your career?
I have mentioned the first one, which was a jump to the government. That was the first turning point because it showed me that I can actually do something different out of my comfort zone. So and of course, the second one, which is where I met you, Ritu, was this jump to the Asia School of Business, which is a business school. Really, that was, I would say, a turning point, and after my midlife crisis, I would say. And at that point, at the peak of my career in the energy industry, I felt empty. I felt there's something out there that I really wanted to try, and I haven't, which is about human, talent development. And there was no way I can do that with technical and commercial background. And I said, what do I do? What do I want to do? I really want to go into this education, human capital development. And somehow the opportunity presents itself there just by a sheer luck. I had a coffee with my friend who was from Harvard, and she said, hey, I'm joining this school, and they're very interesting. It's MIT setting it up here in Malaysia, and would you like to just have a chat with the dean? I said, yeah, why not? And actually at that time, so important part here, setting the intention and setting that radar when the opportunity comes. You feel that it's a coincidence, but actually maybe it's meant to be. I literally had to restart my career at the age of 30 plus. I would be lying if I said it was easy. Because I had built a huge reputation in oil and gas, and going to something that people don't know you, and people, now I have to make friends with the CHROs of the world and the people and the academicians, and very, very different. But I was very clear on what I wanted to do. Actually, what I wanted to learn is I wanted to learn what kind of model that suits me. I tried different things, and I'm happy that I tried that. I had a 5-year trial. I would say it's sabbatical, but it's not really sabbatical, but it's just a sandbox where I tried. And after that, I realized, actually, you have to distill the part that you like and get rid of all the clutter and the noises and all the things. And I managed to distill, which was quite interesting. It's a long time to distill. I wish it was shorter. But I realized, hey, I actually really like to lead people or some part of coaching where I transform people's lives. And that's how I actually get certified myself in coaching, which was amazing, right? And now I'm doing actually side coaching on top of my job, my day job.
Very nice. As you look back again, and I keep saying look back because you've had such a good long career. So what were one or two key challenges that you faced, and then how did you overcome them?
I think for me, number one would be, how do I create the visibility? Because by creating that visibility, that helps me navigate my career better. And it was challenging. And I remember my first role in ExxonMobil. Actually, my first advice from my supervisor was, you need to be visible, Zalina. And I don't understand that. At the age of 23, it's actually about people knowing you, people, and really your personal brand, I would say. It really is trying to get through difficult assignments, volunteering, actually offering advice, offering help. I find my way of doing it is really offering my service, offering my value. So I thought it was more fun that way rather than the A type of, okay, I must do this, I must network with these people, and I must create the aura of visibility. I'm actually known for a few things. Number one is I'm a connector, right? Because of the way how I move in various different fields and industries, I seem to know a lot more people than average person. So that's my value, really. And I know how to play the card. And really, secondly, is because I'm so into personal development and coaching, people come to me for advice and mentoring. So I do those.
We hear this word, creating visibility, and even today, and especially, all leaders get have been told that, okay, you need to be more visible, and I think especially women, and the the very generic or very general response from women leaders is, oh, I don't like it. Like, does it mean I have to be loud? Does it mean I have to be everywhere? Does it mean, oh, I've got to speak up in meetings even though it's not relevant, right? So, and what you said, the answer is no, you don't have to. The key thing that you said, and which stood out for me, was find what's your value, find what you are good at, and use that to create visibility. In that way, you do what you do, and you feel good about it. You're authentic about it, and then as a result of that, you create visibility.
You have to be yourself, because if you're not authentic, it's going to be tiring. It's important because if everyone is the same, if everyone follows that same mold, then we are not going to be memorable at all.
Yeah.
So the best thing is to be yourself and bring that unique value. Really, at the end of the day, it's just integration. And how do I integrate in all the different facets of my life, right? Whether it's career, whether it's work, whether even in personal. And it's very, very important for me to really define that. What is it? What is good life looks like? One of my values is actually balance.
Okay.
And how do I then integrate and make it a bit more holistic? And really, you mentioned about support and having the ecosystem. That is super, super important. Can't really overstress and about that. But another one I would say is really be honest with yourself. What is important and what is not, because if we don't take the time out to reflect what's our biggest priority. I'm sure if you've heard the analogy of the big rocks, small rocks, right?
Yes.
What are our real big rocks, and then the rest are just sand, and I can just fill up in between. So once my husband and I and our kids actually define what's important for us, what's our priority. And for us, we have our own priority even within our own career or our own, school life. How do we then delegate? If something that can be delegated, delegate it. I can confess, I don't cook well. I don't even want to pretend that I can cook. So let's just buy Grab, right? Forget about it.
Yeah.
So, and prioritize it to such that, okay, if you can buy services, and we are at the point that we're lucky that we can buy services, right? And not everyone can do it. So you have to define what is within your means. My husband had cancer last year. When I was the COO, and that is another part when talk about asking help and finding balance, right? How do I actually manage this He's already at the tip of
Hmm.
craziness, and he had to go through chemo for 6 months, and it was very hard. Right? Because people think that you're successful, you can do everything, right? Um, and the fact is, people don't know that you are so you have to ask support from the higher ups.
It's about surrendering, right? Like it's about
Yeah,
letting go
surrendering.
of control. Yeah, letting go of
Yeah,
control and
yeah.
surrendering.
And that was the most beautiful part, because after that, it was like the best lesson in my life. I know it sounds weird because I'm talking about having cancer, and then, oh, by the way, he went through the whole chemo, and it was like, it's hard, but it was the best time of our life. Can you imagine?
Wow.
I,
How did you turn that into best time of your life?
because okay, number one is I managed to like work the whole thing, the whole schedule, to follow his chemo uh, treatment, right? But at the same time, I actually use the coaching. This is where the coaching skill helps.
Yeah.
And actually, I coached him to come out of it, right? And it was such a transformation for him, that I felt like, wow, this is like the best client I've ever had. And it's
Oh
not
my
about
God.
it was not about the result, it was about the
No.
journey, right?
Journey. Yeah.
And the relationship that you have. And at the end of the day, which I'm gonna share with you, because I really like the fact that you have the question there, how do you define success?
Yes.
That was a turning point. Like, it's not about the material thing, but it's really the spiritual and the groundedness of what matters to you in life, and that was a turning point for me. So okay, but I need to like get rid of my because it was a little bit. Oh, it's tough because I was handling the crisis in my operations, and we had a 6 months crisis, which I cannot really
Sure.
in operations. But at that time, the people needed me to be the leader, right? But at the same time, I need to be okay at home, and I need to be okay personally um, to lead
To
two
lead,
different
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
One is be a caregiver, one is be the boss at work. And I didn't take a sabbatical at all. And that was interesting because that was my biggest lesson. If you can continue your life as normal as you can, because the routine and that helps center and ground you for, I would say, really, really stretched me, but it really taught me how and what I can do. And that's why
Wow.
when I got to this role, it was like, okay, no problem, I've done the worst.
Firstly, I want to really thank you for being so open. Seriously, like I mean, really trusting us with your journey and with the information that you shared. So much. Thank you so much. So I know we're going a little bit more on the philosophy. I mean, the younger ones probably need the experience to get here, but that's such a important point, and that's why my leading question to you earlier was that how do you define success?
What I've learned through the journey of being a caregiver of my husband, when he had this cancer and the whole chemotherapy for 6 months last year, while I was a COO, I think really is a realization that sometimes you cannot control. There's a lot of things that are outside of my control, and it was such a humbling experience for me. Really, really humbling in the sense that you can plan, but you can never really plan. And really taught me to surrender, and I think that is really good as a leader, because sometimes, right, for me is when I had frustration with the team members. Yes, you have to be very objective about what's needed to be done and what's needed to be achieved. But sometimes there are also a lot of factors outside your control, and that can be many, many different forms. I had to manage a COVID crisis 2 years ago, with almost, I would say, more than 500 people got infected
Wow.
offshore, and they had to demobilize, and And actually, sadly, there are a few people who passed away because of the situation. And as a leader, when you're in charge of that crisis, you really need to know what is controllable or what's not controllable. How do you manage the emotion? How do you manage the crisis? It was such a valuable experience for me. And when it comes to about finding the balance, not really finding balance at that point, but really knowing what matters, and goes back to my first definition of prioritize, and what's that big rock. Because if not, in a crisis, if you don't know what's important, then everything is just going to crumble and you're just going to lost it, right? And for me, it was very important to define at that point, if it's certain crisis, what is the most important that we need to get out of. And that helps a lot. And talking about, the whole chemo journey for me was the best, because I know it sounds weird. It sounds weird coming out of a very difficult, challenging moment, but it was the best because we really are clear about what we value, what's important in life, and really ask ourselves, okay, we have to change our lifestyle. We have to, be human, and we can't be working to the point of health detriment, right? So we say, okay, and take that step back. And now, I every day without fail, I said what's important for me every morning is, okay, I have to set intention, I have to clear my mind. And the good thing that came out from that whole saga last year, the whole experience, was I learned a lot of mindfulness technique in all this balancing stress, managing stress. I got certified in Qigong because it was very important for both the patient and the caregiver. One thing that I think as a leader that is hard when you have all these challenging issues is to be honest to your team. And I was honest. I mean, I see there's nothing to hold back. So I told my team that, okay, this is my situation. I have to go off from work. And they did amazingly. This is when your team members really surprise you, enlighten you in so many ways. And my team, all my heads, they were so cooperative, they were so understanding. My board members were understanding, my boss was understanding, and they actually helped give me the space when I needed. I did not take any sabbatical whatsoever. I still managed the crisis at work while managing the crisis at home. And coming out of that, I think a bit more grounded, I would say.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah.
As we're about to wrap up our conversation, if you were to give one advice to the young emerging women leaders in Asia specifically, what would that be? If there's like one solid advice, what would that be?
That's a good question. I would actually learn how to embrace myself, and you should learn how to embrace yourself. And really that really can mean pushing boundaries. That can really mean understanding your strength, and make the full use of it. Don't follow other people's footsteps or mold. And because for me, it's important that no one defines your life. You define your life. And definition can be in many different ways and forms. So embrace yourself. Really, really be okay with it. And then from there, reflect on what really matters to you and what really matters to your career, because there is no such thing as one linear career journey. Enjoy it, because what's life if you don't enjoy, right?
That's right. Great. What pearls of wisdom there. As we're wrapping up, so I would like to summarize our conversation, this beautiful conversation. My key takeaways from that, one thing was what you said in the beginning was just ask. just ask for it. Ask for what you're worth, ask and know your value and ask for it. So I like that word, just ask. The other thing I personally loved is this whole family offsite, coming together as a family, deciding your values, deciding what's important for you this year, and how everybody kind of works around that. And the third piece was about integration. It's no more about just the balance, it's about integration, because few things are going to go off balance at certain periods, but how do you integrate all of them in this big system called life? So thank you so much, Zalina. It was such a joy speaking with you, and thanks for being so open and vulnerable. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Ritu. I really enjoy our chat.